So this video will show you how you can use Google Forms to do two things really. Firstly, to use it as like a survey tool, so you can collect information about certain things, maybe from parents or from teachers or even from students. And then the second half of the video will show you how you can use forms to create quizzes, which are self-marking and have the answers already preset to give students instant feedback whenever they take one of these quizzes. So first of all, to get to Google Forms, as always, you could use the waffle, and it might be a bit further down. It's this purple icon here. Or you could go to Google Drive and then add in a new Google form, or the shortcut form.new will create a brand new blank Google form in your My Drive. Like I mentioned before, I'm going to start off by trying to create a kind of a survey to get feedback or data from whoever I send it to. So you could use this for getting feedback for training, or if you've run an inset and you want to get people's feedback for that. You might use it to get information from parents maybe, or even things like voting for school counsellors with students. Are all different ways I've used forms in the past. So I'm going to just imagine I want feedback here, feedback for training, and that's the title that whoever looks at this form when the person receives it, and then up here in the left, that's the name of the file for when it's stored in my drive, so I can find it. So you might have those different sometimes. You can put a description in to add more information about the form, but you don't need to. So just quickly, as you can see, it's fairly simple and clean. You've got, at the moment we're looking at the questions, and I'll show you how you can add different questions and the types of questions you can include. And then later, once people have started responding to this, you can find your responses by going over to this tab. And obviously at the moment, no one's responded. There are a few other options, ways to personalize it. You can change the colors and add logos and things like that. This is a really useful button. It's called the preview. So you can see what the form would look like for anyone taking or filling it in. So at the moment, I don't have anything. I've just got the title, but this is what they would see. They wouldn't see this sort of behind the scenes editing part. And then the settings, I'll speak about those in a moment. So first of all, if I want to add a question, I might want to ask for the person's name. So I'm just going to have a question here that says name. As simple as that. You could say, what is your name? It's completely up to you. And over on the right, so this box is for this particular question. On the right, these are the different types of answers that your recipient can use. So the first two are, that means they can, whoever is answering this can just type in an answer, either a short answer or a paragraph if you want them to write a bit more. So I'm going to use short answer, so they just type in their name. Other options include multiple choice, checkboxes and drop down. Probably most of the time you'll just use these top 5. That's what I'd find. There are some other ones. You can have like a scale, so rate it from 0 to 10. How useful was it? And some other things, but most of the time you'll probably find you use these 5 the most. And there's an important difference as well between multiple choice and checkboxes. So multiple choice means that the recipient can only choose one option, they can't choose more than one, whereas checkboxes, they can select multiple. A multiple choice comes with round kind of options, and checkboxes, they're square. So that's just something to bear in mind. Sometimes people create forms that they intend to be multiple choice, but then they accidentally do checkboxes, so you could tick more than one. Drop down is essentially the same as multiple choice. It stores that in a drop down menu. So if you have lots of choices, you might, rather than using multiple choice, maybe use drop down so they stay hidden. But anyway, this is asking for their name, and I want them to type that, so I'm going to add in just short answer. I'm just going to click onto the eye to preview what this looks like before I move on, just to check that it's how I intend. So at the moment it's got the title and then name, and then they could type in their name there and submit. I can close that tab now. That's just saying you've entered information, don't you want to submit? But I don't. Whenever you click the preview, it actually opens it in a new tab. So you can either close that, Or if you're an editor, so if you've created this form, you will see a pencil in the bottom right that would also take you back to the behind the scenes section. But no one else will have access to that unless you've added them as a collaborator. So now I want to add another question, and maybe I'll just say something like, was the training helpful? ? Now sometimes you may have noticed that changed automatically. Occasionally when it works, Google's artificial intelligence predicts the kind of question that you might want to use. So here it said, oh, do you want to use linear scale? I've spelled it wrong. So you could say, all right, choose from 1 to 5, and maybe 1 is not helpful at all, and then 5 is extremely helpful. So I could use a linear scale, and just to show you how that looks, if I go to preview, now it's got them laid out with the different things that I wrote here. So that could be quite useful. But I actually want to make it a bit simpler than that. I'm just going to use multiple choice, and I just want a very simple yes or no. So I can just type in yes. Again, the artificial intelligence suggests, do you want to use no as well? And I'll say, yeah, I have no. Otherwise, I can just press enter and add in another option, maybe. Or not sure, or whatever you want. So you can keep adding options down here as well, and you can delete those by clicking the X. So if I look at this now, if I preview it, now there's just a multiple choice, and like I mentioned earlier, with multiple choice, if they're round, you can only choose one of them. I'm going to close that. So once I've finished with that question, I could make it required if I'd like, which just means now when someone views it, it will have a little red star, and it means they have to answer this, and they won't be allowed to submit until they've, because it says this is required. So you might have some questions that are kind of compulsory, like maybe I would definitely want them to write their name. Maybe they don't need to say whether it was helpful or not. So that can be quite useful. And then I'm going to add one more question that just asks for general feedback. So maybe I'll just say feedback or comments. And again, the artificial intelligence has worked out it wants paragraph answer, which it's got it right in this case. Sometimes it doesn't. And I'm going to leave that optional. I might even write optional here. Optional, just so people know that they don't have to add feedback or comments. Now when I preview that, I can see that this is what they'll see when they click onto the link. It asks for their name, and then it asks, was the training helpful, and then any feedback. And then they can click submit, and when they do that, it will show up on here that I've got one response, and it will keep obviously going up as more people respond. So now I feel like I'm ready to send this to people and for them to fill in, so I can start getting some responses back. And you may have noticed that this button, normally in all the other Google tools, it says share. But the problem with that in forms is sometimes you want to share it so you can collaborate with people. Like maybe I want another teacher to be able to see the responses and to add or edit the questions. But normally you want to just send it so that people can fill it in. You don't want them to see the behind the scenes. You definitely don't want them to view all your responses. You just want them to fill it in. So they've got this send button. So this is how you send it to people so that they can fill it in and they won't see all of that information. If you do want to add someone so that they can edit it, you have to add them as a collaborator. But it does just give you a warning here. If I added in user 1, it does say editors will be able to view and delete form responses, because maybe in the past some people have used this thinking that then the person would have to respond to it, but actually it gives them access to view all the responses and delete them if they wanted. So to actually send this to someone, you just have to click send. You can either do it from email and type in their email address here, and you can send that and then it would include it in the form if you wanted, or you can click the link icon, and then if you take this link, this is what I usually use. You can shorten it if you want. Then if you copy that, you can email it to people and then they'll be able to fill it in. So if I go into a new tab and paste that link, it would take me to what it would look like for them. And then they could just fill it in and click submit. They wouldn't see this pencil to edit it unless they had edit access. And don't worry about embed. So just before I actually email this to the staff that came to the training, there's an important setting that you might want to have a look at, or there's a few important settings. If you go to the settings cog, and there's a few things you could do. By default, normally this is restricted so that only users in your organization can view it. So if I opened an incognito window, and if I pasted it in here, it would ask me to log in, and it would only allow me to view this form and fill it in if I had the correct email address that was inside this organization. If I take that off and click save, for example, if I want parents to answer this and I know that they don't have an email address the same as this organization, now the same link, I don't need to change it. Now when I paste it in an incognito window, it will work. So this is like an anonymous window. This could be anyone on the internet, and then they can fill it in. So if you are creating a form for people outside your organization to fill in, it's important that you check this box. And that's often what people forget to do, and then they'll get an email from someone saying, it says I don't have permission. So you just have to go back into the form, click that settings cog, and then uncheck that box. And once you click save, you don't need to resend the link, just tell them, click it now and it should work. So yeah, there's a few other options you can do here. You can collect email addresses and limit it to one response, but then that will require that they're signed into Google and have a Google account, so it can be a bit limiting. And you can change things in the presentation so that you can, at the moment when you submit it, it will have a link to if they want to submit another response, and you can take that off, and you can change the message that it shows. So if I just fill it in an incognito window, I'm just going to say, my name is Luke, and was the training helpful? No, I'll say yes. Optional feedback, thank you, very informative. When I click submit, it says your response has been recorded. Do you want to submit another response? That's not really helpful in this situation, so I'm going to turn that off, and maybe I'll change the confirmation just saying thank you for the feedback, it is really appreciated, or something like that, and then click save, and that's what will appear. So that's kind of the first half of the video, how you can use Google Forms to create a survey. So in the next part, I'm going to show you how you can use Google Forms to create a quiz. So at the moment, this is just a tool for collecting data, which is really, really useful. But sometimes if you want to kind of take forms a step further, you might want to use this to create a quiz. Again, this is not in the level 1 exam to create a quiz. I don't think, no. But if you do want to create a quiz, I'll just show you how to do that now. So I'm going to go to form.new and create another blank form, and I'm going to call this maths quiz. This could be any quiz that you might have. Again, I'm imagining this is for students. I'm going to ask for their name. I could do collect email addresses, and that will automatically collect the students' email addresses, and it will show me who they are. But at my school, their actual email address is hard to know straight away who that is, so I find it easier to just ask them to type their name. I'm going to limit it to one response, so once they've responded once, they can't respond again, and I'm going to keep it restricted, and I'll leave that for now. So if I had, I'm going to add in another question. First of all, I'll make sure name is short answer so that they can answer that one. I'm going to add another question over here by clicking the plus. And here I'm just going to add a very simple multiplication, maybe 6 multiplied by 4. Now I could do multiple choice and give them a few options like 12, 24, maybe 36 and 17. But at the moment, this is still like a survey. So it would still, if I put my name in here, whichever of these I select, it doesn't really do anything. When they submit, it'll just say, thanks for submitting. as if it's a survey tool still. So what you need to do if you want to make it a quiz is up here in the settings. Now you're going to go over to the quiz section and you're going to flick this switch that turns this form into a quiz. If you have Chromebooks at your organization, then this is a really useful tool that if you tick that, it means when they do the quiz, it locks down their screen so they can't go onto another tab and search for the answer, or they can't, use a dictionary or any of the kind of things that crafty students sometimes do. But that only works if you've got Chromebooks. If you don't, then it just doesn't work, and you won't be able to access. If you turn that on, you won't be able to even access the form if you're not using a Chromebook. So just bear that in mind. And you can choose about how the marks get released, either straight away, like instant feedback, or later after you've actually checked them. So once you've turned it into a quiz, now you'll have this new kind of option down here where it says answer key. And from here, you can select which is the correct answer. So if I select 24, I could say that's worth 1 point. You can even add feedback. So and that can be different depending on if they've got the answer correct or incorrect. So if they've got the answer correct, you might say, well done, and that's all. And maybe if they've got it incorrect, you could say, not quite. Watch the video below to learn or to practice your 6 times tables. And then you can actually either add a link to a website like Times Table Rockstars or anything that you use, or you can add a video directly from YouTube. So if I type in here 6 times tables, hopefully there's a 6 times table video that maybe that's appropriate. And when I click save, it's got now feedback for the different options. So if I preview this now, imagine that I'm a student. I'll say my name is Luke. Now, if I put the answer 24 and submit, when I click on view score, it will now say, well done, tick, you got it right, 1 mark out of 1. And the feedback says, for that question, well done. But if I wonder if I refresh, no. If I do that again, but this time get it wrong, I've said they can only view it once. Let me just change that. Because at the moment it's saying, no, you can't retake it because you said only do it once. So now if I go to do it again and I say John, and 6 times 4 is 12. When I click submit and view score, now it says, no, you got it wrong. And the feedback says, not quite, watch the video to practice your 6 times table. And yeah, they can watch the video and learn. So that's really useful. There are a few kind of other things that might be interesting to think about, like if you add in one of the kind of first mistakes people make, or not mistake, but one of the things they learn very quickly is if you ask a question like what is or name a shape with 3 sides, for example, and if you make it short answer, you could go to the answer key, and then now you can add in correct answers. So I might add in triangle, and then you can say all other answers are incorrect, and you can add feedback again. Maybe I'll give it 1 mark. But the problem with that, and you'll probably find this very quickly, is now if I put the answer triangle, but I spell it wrong, or I don't put a capital T, or I put a space at one end, or you'll be amazed at all of the different various ways students put in an answer. And then you'll get parents calling you or emailing you saying, oh, my child, it says they got it wrong, but they got it right. So it's probably easier if you stick to multiple choice for quizzes, or if you set the answer as feedback, so that once they click it, the feedback will say, if you said triangle, you're correct. And it doesn't matter how they typed it, they'll just see that and know that they got it right. I'll show you the example. Here it says, no, you got it wrong, 0 marks, even though I wrote triangle, I just didn't spell it correctly. The last thing I'll quickly show you that can be really useful is that you can actually add images to go with, for example, maybe I could say select the triangle. If I want them to show me that they know what a triangle is, and I could have a few options, but I could actually add a picture. So I could search maybe for a square and add that, so that different options have different pictures associated with them. So I've got option 1, maybe option 2, I can choose an image of a triangle. They wouldn't see the word triangle, I don't think. And then maybe add in another one by pressing enter, add in a picture of maybe a circle. But now I can choose the answer key and say option 2 is the only correct answer, and that gets you 1 mark. So there are other ways to do the questions that might not be as easy to do with a text answer. So now when I view it, it will say select the triangle, and the student can just select which one they think is right. And if they've done that, they'll get the correct mark, hopefully. Yeah, so it'll say, well done, you selected the right one. One more thing I'll just quickly tell you, if you, because it does ask you this in the exam, from the editing part, if you go to responses, this is where you can view what people have said and what answers they've put down. But if you want to create a spreadsheet with that data, you can use this button over here. You just have to press it once, and it says, do you want to create a new spreadsheet or use an existing one? So I'm just going to create a new spreadsheet, and it will take all of the answers and put them into a spreadsheet. And the best thing about this is that it's live. So if I fill in this form again, it will automatically add a new row with that information and say the score if you've set it to automatically mark. So yeah, that's Google Forms, and it's probably my favorite tool, one of my favorite tools in Google. It's really, really useful in so many ways. And once you get used to using these, you may a couple of times create one and then forget to unrestrict it, or it happens quite a lot. But once you've got used to those issues, you'll probably find yourself using these all the time, and they're really useful, really easy to manage. Yeah, like I said, one of my favorite tools. So there's some tasks underneath this video. I know this was a little bit longer than normal, but I hope that you can complete the task, and good luck.